Welcome and good afternoon. This is Commish Orr, and I'm back again for another update on the Baseball Maelstrom Triple-Elimination Tournament using History Maker Baseball's all-time franchise great set. 32 teams, one from each franchise, including a Negro League team and the Japanese League team. And I finished up the American League, the first round of the American League, so I thought I'd give an update on those 4 games. And then we'll talk a little bit about where we're at overall in the tournament. So first up, we had Texas facing off against Cleveland. And we had the first shutout. Actually, I'm going to call this week shutouts, blowouts, and close calls. We'll say that. And in terms of shutouts, we had our first shutout as Addie Joss shut out the Texas Rangers 2-0. He was facing up against Fergie Jenkins, and the only runs in this one came from a Manny Ramirez 2-run home run in the 4th inning. So Fergie Jenkins also pitched pretty well. In fact, he pitched a complete game, 8 innings here. And Cleveland took this one 2-0. Addie allowed 6 hits, walked 1, struck out 5. Fergie Jenkins struck out 4 himself, allowed 7 hits in 8 innings. But they just couldn't get anything going. Texas just couldn't get anything going against Joss in this one. They did have a runner in scoring position in the 4th here, and in the 6th, and in the 8th. Thanks to an error. And then even in the 9th, things got a little interesting, but they just couldn't quite do it. How many did they leave on base here? 8. They left 8 on base, so things could have gone a different way if things would have fallen for them here or there, but they didn't. So Addie picks up the first shutout of the series. Let's head over to Los Angeles as the Tampa Bay Rays were facing off against the Los Angeles Angels. And we had another shutout, back-to-back shutouts, in terms of games here, as Dean Chance became the second pitcher to hurl a shutout, as he held the Tampa Bay Rays scoreless. In fact, Chance only allowed 3 hits in this one, struck out 5, and walked 1. And on those 3 hits, interestingly enough, all 3 of those base runners were doubled up. So he retired the first 11 batters he faced before walking Carlos Pena here. Finally, in the 5th, he allowed a single here, but then Longoria grounded into a double play. That was the first hit. The second hit came in the top of the 8th. Aubrey Huff had a single. But once again, Evan Longoria grounded into a double play here in the 8th. And then finally in the 9th, Jason Bartlett led off with a single. But Zobrist grounded into a double play to end the game. Meanwhile, David Price on the mound for Tampa Bay. He allowed a 2-run homer to Mike Trout here in the 2nd inning. And then he allowed the next inning, he allowed a 2-run double to Troy Glaus here in the 3rd. And he did allow another run here in the 6th. But, 5-0 here. Chance allowed just those 3 hits. Price allowed 9 hits, walked 5, struck out 8 in 7 innings. And LA advances with a 5-0 win here. Let's head over to Houston as the Oakland Athletics were facing the Houston Astros. And here's a blowout. We had Nolan Ryan on the mound for Houston, Chief Bender on the mound for Oakland, and actually both pitchers pitched pretty well into the 4th inning here. And that's when Reggie Jackson got things going with a 3-run homer for the Athletics to put them up 3-0. Now, Houston would respond in the bottom of the 5th when Alan Ashby hit a 2-run homer to get them on the board and to cut the lead to 3-2. But in the 6th inning, things kind of fell apart as Ryan walked the first 2 batters. Al Simmons singled to load the bases, and then Mickey Cochran hit a bases-clearing triple to put Oakland up 6-2 at that point. And Nolan Ryan would exit the game. But Oakland wasn't done, as you can see, there were a couple more walks, a hit by pitch, a sac fly. Overall, they would score 7 runs in that 6th inning to move up to 10-2. Now, in the bottom of the 6th, they actually hit back-to-back homers. Richard Hidalgo hit a 2-run homer, and Morgan Ensberg followed with another solo shot. But that still only put things 10-5, and they weren't done scoring. Houston brought in J.R. Richard to try to eat some innings and keep things from getting too out of hand, but Oakland would hit, Jason Giambi actually hit a 2-run homer in the 8th. So they'd score 4 more runs off of Richard and eventually win this one 14-5 in a blowout. Biggest blowout I've seen so far in the tournament. Pretty dangerous lineup actually for Oakland. You have the middle 3 there, Jimmy Fox, Jason Giambi, and Al Simmons. You throw in Mickey Cochran and Reggie Jackson in there, and it's pretty dangerous lineup. And yeah, they just kept getting on base. Nolan Ryan, 5 innings pitched, allowed 5 hits, walked 5, struck out 5. So typical Nolan Ryan start, I think. But allowed 7 earned runs in this one. Chief Bender wasn't too much better. 6 innings, 5 earned runs, allowed 6 hits, walked 2. He did strike out 7, though. In fact, both teams struck out 10 times in this one. But Houston just couldn't stop Oakland from scoring. So Oakland advances with this win. Finally, we head over to Boston as the number 2 seed Boston Red Sox faced off against the number 15 seed Baltimore Orioles. And we had Cy Young on the mound for Boston facing off against Dave McNally for Baltimore. And McNally was just having a great game. Boston couldn't quite get anything going, really, against him. They did finally score a run on him in the 8th, but by then they were already down 4-0, 4-1 after that run was scored. Frank Robinson hit a solo shot in the 2nd, and Jim Gentile hit a 2-run homer in the 6th, and then they scored another run, an unearned run in the 7th, thanks to Wade Boggs' error. So Baltimore took a 4-1 lead into the 9th. But that's where things got a little interesting, as Greg Olson came in to try to close things out for Baltimore. He did get Yastrzemski to ground out to start the inning, but then walked Nomar and allowed a double to Bobby Doerr and walked Carlton Fisk to load the bases. Dwight Evans would ground out for the 2nd out of the inning, but to cut the lead to 4-2 at that point. Tris Speaker would follow with an RBI single, and it was 4-3. Speaker would steal 2nd. But Wade Boggs, in a chance to redeem himself for that error, would ground out to 1st to end the game. So Baltimore escapes this one, takes this one 4-3, and Cy Young, he went the distance, allowed 8 hits, walked 3, didn't strike anybody out. Interestingly enough, the only strikeout in the game was the very last batter that Dave McNally faced in the 8th inning, Jimmy Fox. Other than that, no strikeouts in this one, oddly enough. So, where does that leave the tournament? Well, first round is complete, and we see Seattle will face Toronto. Chicago will face Detroit. LA Angels will face Cleveland. And then Baltimore, the surprise team here, Baltimore will face Oakland. Both of those teams were underdog victories there in their matchups. And if we look in the losers bracket for the American League, we see that Yomiuri will take on the New York Yankees. Kansas City will take on Minnesota. Texas will face off against Tampa Bay. And Houston will face Boston. They're in the losers bracket. Remember, it's triple elimination, so even there's no team that's out of it yet. And there won't be a team out of it yet, even after the next day's games, because there's an elimination bracket down here too. But that wraps up the American League. Next up, we have the 4 remaining games to complete the National League part of the bracket. We have Colorado facing St. Louis, Milwaukee facing Pittsburgh, Arizona at Atlanta, and San Diego at the LA Dodgers. So far, both number 1 seeds fell, and the number 2 seed in the American League fell. So the Dodgers have a lot to live up to here. So let's see if they can do that. As always, you can head over to baseballmaelstrom.com to follow the action. You can see a little write-up on each game. Get the schedule, scores, standings, all that fun stuff. A link to the bracket here if you want to see that. So I hope you enjoyed that. Leave some comments. Let me know what you think so far. Definitely still getting used to History Maker Baseball, so I'll have some better thoughts once I play some more games with it. So be watching for that. But for now, that's where we will leave things. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching, and until next time, have a great evening.